It is necessary that we look like crazy people because we are not following logics. We're not following rationality. So when we're going to make a decision, it's not because we looked at data, these images that come through us, through dreams, through visions, through our imagination. They're so strong and so determining, and life becomes so much more interesting to be lived when you are following these images, these ideas, that even if you make the hardest choice, that choice is going to prove itself to be the most creative one.
So I have these conversations with the subconscious that are really funny because I'm always very open going like, and now what? And they go, well, now listen to And I go, all right. But it's amazing because all these things are unearthing, and I cannot really tell these things to other people who do not understand what I'm talking about. Like I can, I know. So I'm like, because yesterday I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, very few people are going to understand my excitement about like having something bigger than me allow me to see things from another position. So I'm myself seeing myself in a different position I was in 2015. So I have to revise my own connectivity and connection to what I thought it was divine. I'm revising my own connection to logos. I'm revising my own connection to, because where I'm standing right now is a different consciousness. I'm more in 5D right now, so I can see things differently. That's why I think that when the consensus wants to go to spiritual without having individuation, if you don't have the glasses, you cannot see.
Monika Bravo is a multidisciplinary artist, an evolutionary astrologer, and a very curious human being. We met at Rebel Wisdom. She immediately caught my attention, for her image showed an alchemical symbol of extreme importance in Jungian psychology, the square of the circle. In one of the community's practices she was facilitating, I gave a particularly harsh statement, and her reaction was simply to be interested in the content I produce. She created a strong connection with me right there. After that, my admiration would only grow as I moved into her universe, her exquisite artwork, and her deep insight into Jungian psychology and astrology. In our first conversation, we are talking about non-rational types of consciousness, Jungian ideas described as concrete practices, and their connections to astrology.
I had quite a week, with the full moon in Leo. Is quite intense. I have a lot of insights coming through my inner child, and from the subconscious, I have like some stuff that is really, really revealing stuff that I believed in before, like 2015. And in my dream yesterday, I had like this big voice saying like, you have to revise your release system. And I was like, oh no, really? Okay, so I have to like start seeing it from another side. So it's really good. It was really good. And how was your week?
It was really good. I am changing my direction, my professional direction, and leaving some things behind. After this great conjunction, I think that we must leave some things behind and start new things. So I did that, and it was very good because now I have a lot of free time to dedicate to the things I really want to. And this is quite new in my life.
Was it something like hard to do, or something that you knew that you needed to go there in order to get somewhere else?
I think I would answer both things. On the one hand, I was really tired of following that direction, but attached to it. I think I was attached to the Capricorn thing, hanking, success. I need to reach that point, and if I'm not working 14 hours a day, I feel guilty and ashamed of what I can't say, but the feeling was like this, guilt and shame. So I started to see these things, and I really, really don't like to be controlled, not even by myself. So I decided to drop this control and really detach from the things that I didn't want in my life anymore. Although I was attached, I am also very sensitive to the transcendental forces. You know my birth chart, so that Pluto there, it really pushes me forward, especially in times of change, transformation, and destruction that is necessary to transform.
Isn't a great leap to take from Saturn, that is like the safety, that sometimes is more like constrained, into Uranus, like I gotta trust that some shit's gonna happen. I don't know where it's coming from, but if I'm grounded, I might as well pick it up. So it's a leap. I will say, like in terms of language, it's almost like having a leap of faith that you have to trust that no matter what happens, you know what to do. And if you don't, you will learn on the go. But it's interesting because I look at your chart right now, and the Great Conjunction fell on your 6th house. So it's a completely change of routine and how you're going to be honoring the time with what you do in the little things. It's an honoring to say, well, I don't know what it's going to look like. Maybe this is the kind of work that I want to do, but it's new and let's go for it. So it's a leap of faith in a way.
There's also this a certain level of pain for the things that I left behind. But it's a good thing to know that you have done everything you could in order for those things to succeed. And the energy simply changed. And being able to accept that is amazing. We were having that previous conversation the other day, and I mentioned that in order to follow transcendence and be open to the flow, I really believe that we need to accept and work with the things that are usually considered negative things. Otherwise, it's not going to be acceptance of the flow. So I have, it's easy for me to feel pain and make decisions out of it.
Mm-hmm. So if I have to ask you, because I can tell you where is the places where I've been focusing on that, on like I will call difficult situations, I will label them challenges. I will label it like, when you're walking on the street and you have like a little pebble on the shoe and you have to take the shoe off to just take it out, or something that is disturbing. So in the past, I used to do very, very much this. I used to go like, oh, that's not happening. Like, that's not happening. It was very Neptunian. It's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I would be completely in denial. Like, oh, let's go and get drunk. Like, oh, let's get high. Like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And now when I have that neglect, because I call it neglect, it's not good or bad. It's just like I'm not paying attention. I am away from being present. Even though this seems to be a horrible landscape because it's uncomfortable. It's something is in pain. It's showing me something that is heavy on my body. I go, let's see what happens. So for instance, this full moon was amazing because I felt all of a sudden there was a big sense of fear coming back. And it's been a while I don't feel that fear. It's been a while. So of course, when it comes, you go like, oh no, like, come on, like, like, oh no. And then
you are here again.
Oh no, I thought I dealt with you before. But I was like, okay, I was being more gentle. And I said, what is it that you want to tell me this time? So this was what happened on full moon. It was so beautiful. It was my inner child. This is Monika. She's around 4 years old. And she just went to me and she said, Monika, pick me up. And I said, you want me to hug you? She says, yeah, but pick me up. So I picked her up and I held her really like this. And I said, she said, I have a secret for you. And I said, go ahead. Like when kids wants to speak like that. So she said, Monika, the fear is not fear. Is you're afraid of neglecting yourself again. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. You're so right. So she said, because I told you this, we have to do something now. And I said, yeah, what do you want? She goes, let's go barefoot on the grass and spend the day in the water. So that's what I did. I said, I had a lot of things to do. And I said, I'm sorry, I have a meeting. Let's go, inner child. And she reminded me so much how important it is for me to face the fear with courage and with like the joy that the kid has, like a child, when they discover something new.
One topic that I am very interested in most of my time is the non-rational types of consciousness. And you just mentioned that you had an encounter with your inner child. So, and I would like to allow our viewers to understand this type of experience in a very practical way. So what is going on there? Is this a product of your imagination? And if so, how do you see imagination?
Very interesting. Never saw it like that. So for me, it will be more, well, we could taste in my imagination, because I actually have to imagine Monika being 4 years old. But there's something that happens when I imagine her, and when I listen to her, is I start really feeling in my body again, in my felt sense, that there's an integration of a part of me that it was completely disassociated. There's a part of me that completely is broken when I was little, trauma, my father died, whatever. And then I was like, oh, this is not safe. I'm going to like objectify everything and not be there. And now I'm inviting that girl, and I actually have invited, I think I have at this point 18 Monikas that I have encountered since I was 4, until like the last one was 3 years ago, where I was in a very dark place, and they live with me. So you can say, well, Monika's gone crazy. And I said, well, if you want a label like that, it's your label, not mine. For me, I am integrating each part of myself that I had abandoned one way or another, because I was trying to comply, to be loved, to be validated, to be needed. I mean, anything that I did in order to be allowed to be myself in the society.
All of us have this imagination going on all of the time. Sometimes it is a negative thing. It's an idea that gets stuck and you can't stop thinking in that idea. And I usually see that these ideas are based on morality, on what is right, the right thing to do, the right way to be, the right way to think. And people don't move to other directions because they are attached to these ideas. On the other hand, you have these images that pull us forward, that show us the way, or different directions, surprising directions. And we resist following those ideas because they seem to be crazy. And you mentioned that, people labeling you as crazy. Also, you said in your introduction, that in your presentation, that you don't want to be right, you want to be of service. So how is this clash for you between the right thing to do and the images that you follow?
I feel that before, when I was striving so much to be myself, and I was not yet close to the idea of what to have agency or be sovereign, I was trying. It was an effort to be right, to be listened to. Hey, Cavalia, I have this idea, and my idea is better than yours. So I was trying to make a point, trying to prove something. And there was always a battle between me, because I thought I was not being listened, so I was projecting that, and therefore I was coming forth in a way that it was very aggressive, and I was trying, So there's a moment when I realized that the more I try, the less I get there, because there's no place to get. There's no place. And I realized that moment I realized that it's not a place that I have to go. You don't get enlightened going to a place. It becomes a state of being. So it's like, if I'm in this state of being, of presence, then I can actually honor my needs. And if I honor my needs, really what I need, I can be sovereign. So that's when I become of service. And I say service because, sovereign is related to like royalty somehow, So when you're a sovereign, you have a domain, and you are not supposed to do any other thing than to serve the domain and the people, or the needs of the people from the domain. But because I am my domain, I am serving the needs of Monika to fulfill her inner child that is there every day, to remind her what she came here to do. Because at the very end, we're here to evolve. So the soul has this desire to evolve. And sometimes the soul is attached, and going to the dark, is attached to obsession, because it is through that obsession that is going to find a way. It's like almost like the clue. When you have the moon and Pluto, like you have in your chart, you're like married to evolution. Like there's nothing you can do. Your ego is attached to, or your image of evolution is one and on. I have my moon in Scorpius. It's very similar. So I cannot separate myself from the idea of evolution. I was born and knew, like, oh, don't forget, Monika, it's all about evolution. Everything else that you're going to do is about that. And that's why we probably meet and we want to be so intense about this, because it's like, let's not forget, like some other people have I'm not saying that everybody has to have the same journey, but in my journey, I honor that. Honor the darkness, It's in the darkness that I see the light. So I'm not afraid of it. Actually, when it's dark, it's like, of course, we spoke a little bit about it the other time that I want to see how much you like to go to the edge of it.
Well, that's an interesting question because it's usual to see people thinking that evolution is like a choice that you make. And in a way it is, but I experience it in another entirely different type of situation that is an inner urge. Let's try to really show this on a day-by-day basis. I am living my life, I am doing what I decided to do, and then I start to feel this inner discomfort, this inner urge that presses in one particular direction. Sometimes I try to keep my schedule, like I have these meetings, I have these clients to see, we need to discuss things, but that image, that pressure does not leave me alone. It remains there, demanding that I go some direction. And of course, it is impossible to live this kind of experience without a dark side. Whatever choice you make requires that you renounce something, you leave something behind. So there's always this clash of different energies, one type of them pulling back and the other type pushing forward. And the way I experience it now is that it is inevitable to follow the energies that are pushing forward. Otherwise, I start to be bitter and cynical about life. And there is even a bad opinion about myself, because I start to if I am too attached to something, I start to see this as cowardice. This is a decision I made a long time ago, and I think this relates very much to the experience of intensity. That is, since I discovered that there is this thing called wholeness, I wanted to reach it without knowing what it was, because I was like 15, 16, so I had no idea of what it was. But I needed to move that direction. And as time went by, I started to see that reaching wholeness requires living all the experiences. I am someone that truly believes that the spirit is the body, which I think is one of the most important premises of the fifth dimension. So for me, it's not enough to know that something exists on a rational level or even on an abstract level. I need to live the experience. And since I am moving towards wholeness, all the experiences are there to be lived. And let's say on dualistic terms, the left side of life, the dark side of life, is also a set of energies and experiences. So if I want to reach wholeness, I need those experiences too. Let me give you examples. Accidents. I was in almost near-death experiences many times, or terrible arguments with people, or my dark emotions, envy, jealousy, fear, hate, being destructive or feeling destructive. So I went through all those experiences too, on concrete situations, in order to really feel those experiences in my body. And also the other side, all of the joy, of enthusiasm, victories, accomplishments, the full spectrum of energies and experiences. And as time went by, they became bigger and more intense. And as a whole, and now I can say I am much closer to wholeness, although this is an infinite way, so there will always be more and more experiences you can live in order to reach wholeness. But the urge grows for more intensity, for more experiences, on both sides.
Well, I'm seeing at your chart, and there's a lot of things that are popping out. So I see, apart from the moon and Pluto being together in Libra, I see that you have 3 planets in Scorpio. And you have a very important conjunction there that is like the way you initiate, which is Mars, and Uranus is together. And I want to talk a little bit about that because we just recently had the conjunction, but at the opposite sign, which is Taurus. And it's a very powerful conjunction, because it's like this urge to initiate, but you don't know where the energy is coming from. But then with Scorpio, you want to merge into something. So you're not just going to say, I want to see the darkness. It's like you're going to embody it. And you're going to be on that edge all the time. Because, I say the edge is because Uranus doesn't have a concrete surface. And it doesn't have a concrete time. So it may come from here and there. Now, you also have Mercury, the way you express, and these are in your 3rd house. So I see that for you it's very important to communicate every experience that you're feeling. And I find a lot of value in that. Now, I think that you're going to have you're having right now the Uranus opposition with your Mercury, and you're going to have eventually coming together at the other side. And that will be very incredible to see what really going to arise from outside of you as an experience for you to keep on going and being so faithful. Because what happens with Scorpio, I think, is that the faithfulness of transformation. It's like you're married to metamorphosis. It's a pure commitment to doing whatever it takes. And sometimes whatever it takes is not pretty. It's not light. So what I found was that the more resistance I was putting to that moment, the harder it was making it. So right now it's like, all right, bring it on. I'm ready. So that's how I'm confronting right now the fear. I'm no longer hiding behind, because every time I hide behind, I see myself again like this. Right now, I'm just going like that. And it takes so much courage. It's the heart that is opening up. And I have my Mars in Aries in the 3rd house. So I actually have to go initiate that conversation with darkness.
My life can be described as a series of crises. And I like it very much. It looks like the script of a Hollywood movie. There's always a lot of action taking place and a lot of problems that need to be solved. And I really liked it very much. And it is so creative that now I am experiencing the crisis of not being in crisis. Beautiful. Because this energy for me is so new, so unknown, that I look at it and I find it strange. Like I have this enormous amount of free time to do my creative work. Nothing, no earthquake is happening in my reality. Can I really dedicate time to patiently and in an organized way develop and build my things? This is so weird.
It's so beautiful, because then you're entering into honoring your sun that is in Libra. So it's all about creating a balance between the chaos and not chaos, and giving value to it. It's almost like saying, really, can I not have chaos and be okay? Or can chaos become something that it is not really so chaotic? It's a crisis. I think I said this before, like crisis in Greek means decision. So there's nothing wrong with making decisions, only that it will be good that you're in the right place to make the right decision that is good for you, not driven by a fear. because that's the moment in our lives when we make the worst decisions, when we don't know what we want, we do not attend to our needs, and then we feel the pressure from others and outside that if we don't do this, then we're going to stay, fear of missing out. So I see that a lot right now in the collective. I'm not going to say if I'm pro or against vaccines or like wearing masks, because it's not about that. But I see a lot of people making a lot of decisions right now, a lot of them, very vital decisions, just because of the fear of not being included or being excluded from a discourse. I do see that there's the whole collective in general. And this is something that is very interesting to talk, because I really want to talk about it. And it talks about the conjunction Saturn and Jupiter. Is I have a sense, and this is just an observation, that the consensus wants to go immediately to the spiritual. So find like an idea, like a cross or a star or like a guru or whatever, or the secret, or, it doesn't matter. Any current to say that's going to save us, right? So if we follow that guy, the shepherd, the consensus, the herd, we're just going to be okay. Of course, obviously, if you really ask the guy, if he knows where he's going, he has no clue. And he's not going to tell you. He or she's not going to tell you. He's going to go, oh, no, but we have to go, vaccines, we have to do. And then everybody. But the interesting thing is like everybody's, and I'm saying everybody because I see it like in numbers, huge numbers, they're skipping individuation. They're just going like, oh, no, I don't want to be selfish. They're confusing big time. They don't understand really what it means to be individuated. They don't really understand what having sovereignty means or having agency, because they have a fear, because we were brought up in situations where being individualistic, it was wrong. You cannot eat all the food. Give something to your siblings, okay? You're not supposed to say these things. You have to lower yourself down. So it's almost like a sin. It became like a sin to become your own person. So people are in this like frenetic kind of, outcome that is out there. I see a lot of people just going from the consensus and staying in the consensus and going to the spiritual. Oh yeah, meditating, I'm doing yoga, but then they're like going to this thing with the same mentality of the consensus. So it's just, there's no evolution there. There's just like a change of hat, Before it says red, yellow, yoga, I went to India. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't matter. Because I'm not here against any of that. I'm just saying, great, you're interested in something like that. Cool. How are you working on individually with that information? Because that's the homework.
I think that people ignore how important myths are, how powerful these stories are, and how they can not only influence but determine what we are thinking and how we are behaving, and so on. As someone who has created the system describing the fifth dimension, I usually see people projecting on the fifth dimension the myth of the Eden. It seems that the Garden of Eden, it seems that perfection and the state of only good is always projected on the next stage. So since 5D is 2 stages ahead of the normal level of psychological dynamics of mankind, the myth of the paradise is projected onto that reality. And I saw that happening too in the beginning of the pandemic. In the first month, everyone was like, oh, now mankind moved to the next level. There is going to be widespread transcendental love and agape. There is going to be peace and everyone is going to cooperate with everyone. Like if we had never had problems in our history of any kind. All of a sudden, just because of a virus, everyone reached immediately illumination. And people came to talk to me. Aren't you happy that now everyone is moving towards the directions that you stand for? And I always replied, no, wait until next month. Because these projections on future times have been happening since immemorial times. So it's going to happen again. It's not going to be transcendental love. Just wait. And of course it happened because people got tired very quickly of the situation that has come to us. And I see a lot of people in denial of this huge crisis. Like they describe the pandemic as a problem of disease and death that really are problems, of course, but I don't see a lot of people looking at data such as the rise of the level of suicide, the losses of jobs, the loss of money, the economic crisis that is increasing, the level of public debt. And everyone is looking only to the virus, the disease, and death, which is a big topic, but we cannot forget the other parts of it. And these parts that we are forgetting, for me, they're the expression of denial. I don't want to look at this crisis, and I understand that. I think that when we are denying something, it's because it's too painful. We are not being able to deal with the level of intensity and crisis that has shown up. But if we don't do, we are going to make the decisions that you mentioned, wrong decisions.
Yeah, I feel that. And I feel there's one thing that has changed in me that has been very provocative in a way that it has served me, is that I used to speak a lot in we, and I'm paying a lot of attention to speak for myself, because that has given me so much empowerment, because I can speak for myself. I am my own agent. And that has caused like some disturbance in my surroundings when I have had friends that come and say, well, enough with that bullshit of individuation. And I go, ooh, what is it that I'm triggering you? So I just have a lot of fun right now. Not that I want to make anybody feel anything, but it's like, it took some courage for me to speak in the first person, because I cannot speak for yourself. I can ask you, hey, how you feeling? How you dealing with this? And then can listen to you and kind of compare experiences in the way that we can compare based on like, you live in another place, you were born in different things, your conditions are different. So it's like I can have empathy and compassion towards your vision and your way you're seeing your reality based on your conditions. And even if you had breakfast or not, that's going to make a big change on your sugar levels, you know? So I have realized that before, part of my neglect, and this is how I integrated, was that I was being always more compassionate towards others and not dealing with me. So that's why it sounds, when people that know me from before, they see me right now and they see me like, now you speak in first person. Now you only talk about individuation. I said, well, actually, that's what I had to do in order to become sovereign, was to establish boundaries, safe boundaries, start speaking for myself and not as a we, stop understanding you first before I understand me. So I did change. And what happened was that without even thinking about it, my relationships between, I became Teflon. I think I told you this the last time. Became Teflon, so everything is just kind of like slippery. And the Velcro that I was attaching people to, nothing sticks anymore, because I actually decided not to have anybody hanging over me anymore. And it has changed in a way that is so amazing, because right now when I engage in any conversation, or even if it's like digital, I have more presence right now than I ever had in my entire life. When I was trying to compensate and I was trying to cope and I was trying to be understanding and I'm so sorry for you. Like, you know, not that yes, I can hear, but I'm not going to excuse you at the same time that I'm not going to look at my stuff, because I use excusing you so I wouldn't not look at myself. So now it's like, sorry, I need to work on my thing, and then I can be present with you. But if I have not done my bed during the morning, I'm not going to go and start engaging with other people. So there's certain sort of like clinical rules that I have with myself right now, that they're not constraining. They're more like, hey, brush your teeth, wash your, makeup. You're going to honor yourself. in every single level, from food to sleeping, meditation, go out for a walk. So I have found that grounding myself in my body and in my incarnation, in that simple things, have given me so much sovereignty. Because I'm no longer seeking to be right or to be another thing that is like, I don't seek the truth anymore. I used to be seeking the truth. I say I embody my own truth. And what does that mean? Well, I am here in my body, feeling completely being here for you. And this is who I am right now.
This seems so important to me because I was studying the cycle of Uranus, looking at the last time that it was in Taurus, and it was in the 30s. When we were experiencing the consequences of the 1929 crash of the stock market in New York and the rise of Nazism and fascism. And I really look at that moment in time as a moment when people forgot about their individual values and principles and identified themselves with the collective values and principles, following the herd, like you mentioned before. And I was thinking about that problem and the combination of Uranus in Taurus. I see Uranus as a planet of uniqueness and individuality. Like, who am I as an unique person? Where is my axis? And Taurus as the sign of values. So I think that the great lesson of this transit is exactly the one you bring now, looking at your own values and principles and be strong enough to stand for those values and principles. Now, looking at the collective level, what do you see as archetypes or transcendental forces or complexes that are constellated or activated in the collective psyche? Also, what do you think we are denying collectively?
Majorly, we're denying in the collective the ability to really accept ourselves as the spark that we have inside. It's really about being granting ourselves or each individually the right to be your own person. It's like almost like you have to ask permission to your inner child to be. And I feel that there's so much fear because there's fear of rejection, of not like let's say that I am individuated, but that's going to put in jeopardy my relationship to you, and you are somebody very important in my life. And then I measure that and I go, no, I think he's more important than my relationship to me. And this is what a lot of people are doing, not only with people, but with money, with jobs, political stances. For instance, like people who voted for X and they probably now they don't like X. They have a lot of difficulty accepting that X is not what they wanted anymore. And so they stay with that idea because it is more easy to be faithful to an idea than to be faithful to yourself.
There is this psychological region that I see very activated on present times, and it dialogues with what you just mentioned. I see the situation currently as a clash between the very existence of transcendental forces and our need of normality and continuity. Therefore, this urge for the new normal, which I think that is never going to come. I hope it is never going to come. But the experience of not having control, of not being able to define where your life is going because bigger forces are moving, and you need to acknowledge these forces and react to them, but you can't control them. You can't force your life to go in one specific direction. And people are afraid of this, and they try to control it even more, desperately, in denial. But I see that this is maybe the biggest opportunity, at least in my lifetime period, that mankind has had to really experience what transcendence is. How does it feel to know, not to believe, but to know that there is a bigger force operating, there is a bigger force moving, and it is going to define a new reality, whether you like it or not, and you can't control it and you need to adapt to it. Reality is not proving religious views. Now that we experience this terrible situation, it is a terrible situation, the idea that this could have been created by transcendence, by God in theological terms, is unacceptable to people and creates a difficult, it makes it very difficult to explain what is going on. Because if these things do not come from the transcendence, from God, where do they come from? Would God not be the whole? Is it not everything coming from God, from the transcendence? So if it is, this is also coming. But am I able to deal with this idea that terrible things can come from transcendence too? We started this conversation mentioning the non-rational types of consciousness. And this is maybe the most important piece, in my opinion. It's very common that people ask me, how does the psyche of someone who is looking at transcendence operate? And there is usually this sensation that we know a lot, that we are sure about a lot of things, that we always know what is going to happen and what is the next step and what is the direction that we need to take. And it's exactly the opposite. I experience my connection with transcendence exactly like you said. I need to not know. I need to have no convictions and no certainty of any kind in order to be open to a completely surprising thing. So the psyche of someone who is interested in having a connection with transcendence operates much like the psyche of a child. Maybe that's why Christ says that you need to become a child again in order to be open to this intensity and huge level of surprise that life has, like unpredictability.
But then there's, in that big words, big things, when you go out, I went out for a walk yesterday. I had a wonderful day with a friend. He came downtown and we went for a walk, and then he took an Uber, and then I ended up walking. And yesterday I said, oh my God, I'm 6 months in Miami because I came here because of a dream. And I'm listening to this music and I'm looking at the boats and looking at the sea, and I'm just like, I'm so blessed. I was just like, I'm so blessed. I'm living so connected to who I am. I don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow, but it's so amazing because I am really allowing the dreams and something bigger than me come through me every day. So I really listen to the dreams. I think it was a new moon in June 21st or something like that last year that I had a dream like go to Miami, and I was like, what? Can it be Miami Beach? Yes, but pack and leave before the August 10th. And then I look at my chart, and August 10th was going to be when Mars was going to become retrograde on my Mars, exactly. So the message was like, because it's going to go retrograde, it's better that you move, you move before this movement goes back. So I packed so quickly and I sent everything and I found the apartment, and, I made a thing like, I want to have an apartment that is in this neighborhood. It costs this, and I'm not going to spend too much time looking for it. So I did the search and I found 3. And then my father died when I was 8, but I actually use him a lot. He's like working for me all the time. So I asked my dad, can you do me a favor, Dad? And he's like, what? And I said, can you do me just a favor? I'm not going to look more apartments. The apartment that is going to be mine is the first person who's going to call me tomorrow. He says, don't worry. The next day, and it was that. It was a person showing me FaceTime. I already Venmo the money or, PayPal the money. And I came here and I was like, wow, I'm really trusting that inner.
And it is necessary that we look like crazy people. Because we are not following logics. We're not following rationality. So when we're going to make a decision, it's not because we looked at data, at some spreadsheet of numbers that points to a certain direction, and it's the best and the most rational thing to do. It's much to the contrary. We make crazy decisions. My father always says to me that I always choose the most difficult path. And I stopped to think about that. Why do I do that? And it's because of the thing you just mentioned. These images that come through us, through dreams, through visions, through our imagination, they're so strong and so determining, and life becomes so much more interesting to be lived when you are following these images, these ideas, that even if you make the hardest choice, that choice is going to prove itself to be the most creative one.
I developed a whole methodology of working as an artist, and I lived for 26 years, and I'm a working professional artist. I make my living of it. And if you see, like, I did not go to art school, and I mean, I know more about art than more people who have studied, because I actually have embodied everything as an experience. Now, a lot of the names, books, things, themes, and everything that they come to me in dreams. And when I say dream, sometimes it's meditation, because it's a dream state. Is a place where I'm not like completely focused like that. My left side of the brain is completely like, I don't know, it's somewhere else. And I've just let really the right kind of like take over, right? So something happened quite incredible yesterday that I'm still trying to kind of, because in the dream, I woke up like 7 times yesterday, not last night, but the night before, because in the dream was saying, hey, wake up. That piece you did in 2015 for the Vatican, I was actually invited to do a piece for the Vatican pavilion at the Venice Biennale. And they gave me the first verse of the Gospel of John, that it says, in the beginning there was the Word, Stinarchy was the Logos, and I was like, what? I don't want to do the Bible. I don't want to do the Bible. I'm not even a Catholic. Why are you even calling me? And then I said, oh, how much is it? Because they were going to give me a big bunch of money. I said, oh, okay, I want it. So then I mean, because if you're giving the opportunity and you have the resources, then you can play with it, right? So I decided to go and question the idea of the Word of God, or Logos. And if you think of Logos in a way that the Greeks think of Logos, and the way it has been translated throughout the Western mind is like, come on, people, what a kind of distortion is this, And Logos is so complex to understand that actually doesn't have a translation in one word, because it's everything, but it's nothing. And it's not religion, and it's not reasoning. It's just, it goes beyond. So I was questioning at the time that there's no way that you can actually get to the idea of God through the word, because the word has been used in languages that people don't speak anymore, like Latin or ancient Greek. And so how are you supposed to repeat something that talks about the idea of the sublime if you don't even have a connection to it? And language is something that we need to connect to. That's why we're having a meaning crisis right now, because people don't even know what they're talking about. They don't understand where these ideas are coming from, right? So back in the day, it was 2015, I said, okay, in order to talk about Logos, we can look at art, but let's look at the history of art where it became abstract. So when Malevich in 1915, he made a black square, and he said, guess what? I'm a suprematist, and I want people to see things through the feelings. I was like, that guy has a point. So I use his forms to talk about one part of the idea of God. That is art can be, music can be, theater can be talking about that idea of how we feel connected to something that is sublime, something that's bigger. It's not a human form, but more like how does it feel to be connected to something that's bigger than you. And the other one will be landscape, because if you go to you go to the sunset, or you go to the beach, or you just like see some water flowing, or you go to the mountain and you see the snow, there's something bigger than you there. So I said, I'm going to do that. So I also took the gospel, the verses apart, and I had people recite them in a way that they're like saying a list of things when they go to the shop. I also make these books with letters that you cannot read. So I was making it very much fun, and it was projections. I'll show you images. It's quite interesting. So I did that, done it. In a dream, they said to me in the dream back then, call it archetypes. Because it's the arche is beginning and typos is form. So it's the first form that we have. That's an archetype. So it's a primal form and how we relate to. So and I was like, oh, Jung, yeah, I've been reading. I read Jung when I was younger, but I had kind of put it there. I have many books, but I was like, okay, he's a cool dude, but I was not really put it there, blah, blah, blah. Now, I've been invited to do commission very big for the East Boston Police Department, which is a very hot topic here. Because when you say police, you're always thinking Black Lives Matter, people are very upset. And what happens with this commission is it's a very big amount of money. So people are already not attacking me, but somehow questioning why are they going to give me all this money when they could actually defund the police? How come you as an artist, what are you going to do? So I decided. They actually gave me the commission because they asked me in an interview a year ago, what do I think about the police? And all I said was that I was nobody to police the police, that I was of service as a human being to bring my truth forth. And if they wanted me to bring my truth forth in this environment, I was very willing to be of service. And they immediately hired me without drawing on anything. And they said, what are you going to do? And I said, I think, and this was all very intuitive, I'm going to do a mobile. You know why I wanted to do a mobile? Because a mobile needs different points of view for you to see what it is. So then I get sense making, rebel wisdom, and I go, John Vervaeke, meaning crisis. I mean, it's all happening at the same time, right? So here I am making this piece right now because I'm in the precise moment. And then yesterday in the dream, the dream says like, okay, you have to revise your position with the logos, because now you're talking about dialogos, because my piece about the mobile is about dialogos. It's having two people reasoning, two or more. So you will have to say include right now. Instead of saying that words are not important, you have to say words are the most important. So I remember waking up and I go, no. And I say, and I go, all right, and write it down. So I have these conversations with the subconscious that are really funny, because I'm always very open going like, and now what? And they go, well, now listen to And I go, all right. But it's amazing because all these things are unearthing, and I cannot really tell these things to other people who that don't understand what I'm talking about. Like I know. So I'm like, because yesterday I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, very few people are going to understand my excitement about like having something bigger than me allow me to see things from another position. So I'm myself seeing myself in a different position I was in 2015. So I have to revise my own connectivity and connection to what I thought it was divine. I'm revising my own connection to logos. I'm revising my own connection to, because where I'm standing right now is a different consciousness. I'm more in 5D right now, so I can see things differently. That's why I think that when the consensus wants to go to spiritual without having individuation, if you don't have the glasses, you cannot see.